I've decided to take it up a bit today and go for the old criminals on the
He's off his head.
No, I decided to come and stand by Nicky because he has helped me out with the speech, and obviously he was the main man when it came to sort out the stag do, and I'm the one who's got to get up and do all the public speaking. He also wrote all the bad ones. So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all having a good time, and I just want to reiterate some of the thanks that have already been given. So, thank you to everybody for coming, and thanks to all the parents, grandparents, friends, family, and everybody. Thank you very much. Now, I'll wait for a clap.
Didn't make me a clap.
Job done. Now, it is the tradition for the best man, or men in this case, to give a warm, heartfelt, professional speech, but I'm afraid mine's probably not going to match up to that today. If you haven't guessed, we're the groom's younger brothers, and it's true when artists say that they make a rough drawing before they make the final masterpieces. That's just the start. Jamie was born on the 30th of the 10th, 1985. And yes, people, I did say 1985, don't let the receding hairline fool you. As my beloved Nan used to say, Jamie was a mollycoddle child, and that's the reason he's such a pain. She would also say that it was my mother's fault, because she wouldn't let anybody else hold him, nobody could touch him. Case in point. He was such a pain that when it came to both myself and Nicky, she was happy to palm us off to anybody. My mother even left me in my nan's house and walked out the door because she forgot I was there. So thanks, Jamie, for setting the precedent. For anyone who knows Jamie well, you'll know he has a slight addiction to chocolate. And I remember a time when we went for Sunday lunch in Dillon's in Carmarthen, and Jamie walked up to the dessert counter and saw a chocolate dessert. Now, we all thought it was a sauce because it was in a pouring jug, but Jamie had to have it, and have it he did. See, I told you he was mollycoddled. The dessert was so chocolatey that as soon as it touched his lips, he had the most disgusted look on his face I've ever seen in my life. It was, and even better was the fact that we told him that we managed to convince him that he couldn't have another dessert after. He was completely devastated. Spoilt. He was spoilt, yes. Your fault, I knows. We used to play a lot of games as kids, such as Army Men and building tents between two beds, and it always started out as good, clean fun. But something would always go wrong. Something would always get broken, be it a light shade, ripped clothes, or we would knock something over, spilling the contents, of which, as luck would have it, would always be a colourful liquid. But then it was time to look for somebody to blame. And quite rightly, as the eldest, Jamie would ensure that Nicky got the blame because he was too young to fight. The poor boy probably got the blame for far more than he deserved. And I will admit, I probably partook in a few of them as well. In all the years I've known Jamie, he has always had a story to tell. Problem is that he exaggerates so much that it's hard to tell fact from fiction anymore. I remember a time when he'd been on a school trip to Oakham Park, and he came back to tell us that he'd been on megaphobia 5 times. To which we thought was rather a lot, considering Jamie's always had a fear of theme park rides. Another trip we went to Oakwood, this time with the family. When we got in the car, Jamie admitted that he'd only been on it 4 times. And as we got closer and closer, the number reduced from 3 to 2. Until we finally got there, he admitted that he hadn't been on it, and he'd only been on the children's treetop ride for the rest of the afternoon. I'm sure Jamie thought he was a bit of a rebel when he was starting to hit his teens. Or was it that he was always trying to impress his friends? I remember a time when he actually put a brick through a bus shelter window. But the silly idiot didn't realise that in the middle of the day, when there were a load of people around, that he got caught. And who had to foot the bill? Mum and Dad. Speaking of footing the bill for Jamie, I remember a time when a bill turned up at the door and there was a £120 bill for calls made to chat lines. Tisk, tisk, tisk. I will say that he was young then. I'm hoping, for his and Tony's sake, that he has grown up to this. But I'm not confident.
As the father, I was allowed to blame the child.
Ah, the truth comes out in the end. Oh, he's looking slightly embarrassed, but there you go. Do you remember, only a few moments ago, he was actually giving me thanks for preparing a speech? There is, however, a different side to my brother. A stronger, noble, far braver side. Having never backed down when his football teammates needed him. I remember him telling me about a time a fight broke out in the football field and he shouted to the biggest, hardest boy on the opposite side, "So, do you want a piece of me or what?" Unfortunately, he neglected to mention, my father told me later, that he actually shouted this from 30 yards away, standing behind the biggest boy on his football team. Not as brave as we originally thought. I'm afraid to say that my brother the groom, in his younger years, was a bit of a lightweight. I had hoped that he might have grown up with this trait, but his performance on the stag do just confirms that he still is. How much of a disappointment he was that on his own stag do, not only did he only drink for the first night, but he flat out refused to drink any soft drinks bought for him the next day in case they were lined with vodka. As if we would do something like that. But we did, but he really caught on really quickly. He also broke his handcuffs, which were attached to his blow-up sheep, which he then refused to carry with him for the rest of the evening. Shame. And the second night, after staggering home myself at 4 o'clock in the morning, finding both brothers couched up in bed, watching an episode of Friends. But, back to today and back to reality. And to be fair, as has already been said, you've produced a fantastic daughter. For her sake and yours, I hope you both have a long and happy life together. And if you'd all like to kindly stand and toast in the traditional way to the bride and groom. To the bride and groom. Thank you.